Okay, so we're gonna tie an indicator caddis fly. This is a combination of Lance Egan's corn-fed caddis and Devin Olsen's front inletter caddis that I tie. Basically, I took the two flies and kind of combined them for something that's a little bit easier to tie, but that also floats really well and requires less management than the corn-fed caddis. And so in the vise, I have a Fulling Mill 50/50 Ultimate Dry Fly hook. It's a black nickel hook. It's a pretty cool hook. It's got a nice wide gap, comes in a bunch of sizes. Start my thread right there. Run it back a little bit. Trim off the excess, discard it. And we're gonna run our thread back to where the barb would be. It's like if you're doing a lot of standard hooks or standard flies, come back forward to about 3/4 of the way, and we're gonna grab our GLO-BRITE thread. And I've got one piece here, and I'm gonna fold that over so you can see I've created a loop there. You guys have probably seen me do this technique, and then I'm gonna wrap it around the thread and place it up on top, just like that. And so you can see what we've done is we've doubled that twice. So it's 4 thread pieces essentially, but this is just a way of locking it in real quick. It won't pull out. Pretty easy to do. Come all the way back to where that barb would be again and trim that off short. It's just a little hot spot, and for this fly I like this kind of like tangerine color. It fluoresces, but it's not totally obnoxious. So the next step is to take our 6X monofilament. So I've cut off a little piece of that. It's probably hard to see. You just want an easy enough piece to work with. Gonna capture that in, come forward, make sure that's all nice and locked in because that is kind of slippery. So make some wraps over that. Now the next step is our pearl tinsel that we're gonna use for ribbing. So I've cut off a piece of that. I cut these pieces off fairly long. I just find that they're easier to deal with if you do them long to begin with. So we're gonna come in and capture that pearl tinsel for our ribbing in there, just like that, and make sure all that's covered up. Push our thread all the way back to where the GLO-BRITE is. So we've got both of those tied in there, the pearl tinsel and the monofilament. Now we're gonna take some of our brown dry fly dubbing, and this is just like the tiniest amount of dubbing. We are going to add that to our thread, just create like a nice little dry fly noodle there, and build up a little bit of a taper in this body. Doesn't have to be perfect. You can see how much space we've left up here. That's important because that's where we're going to build the head of the fly. We want to leave some space there because there will be some bulk that's created. So now I'm going to take the pearl tinsel and I'm going to rib this all the way back up the fly for just a little bit of flash, right? Capture that, tie it off, trim off our excess, make sure that's nice and locked in there. Then take our monofilament and we're going to counter wrap that. So we're going to wrap that the opposite way of the tinsel, and this is basically just to ensure that as we're catching fish, their teeth don't destroy this fly. So this fly that I'm tying here for you guys, I don't know if you watched the start of the video, but in the intro I caught a nice brown trout and it was on this exact pattern, and I will tie this thing in a bunch of different colors. This is a brown one that we're doing right here. Okay, so now I've got some Caddis hair here, and we're gonna take about a pencil width, roughly, trim that off. I'm gonna take that, we've trimmed off that piece, and I'm gonna comb out a little bit of that extra fur, put it in our deer hair stacker. So now all those ends are evened up. Take that out of our stacker and line it up to about the length of the tail, and then switch hands like this. And then we can come in and we just want to trim this off right where our fingers, right where we pinched and switched hands. Now we're going to come in and make a pinch wrap, go over all those tips, and then we're just going to tightly wrap over all that. And this will keep it from spinning and getting all messed up. And now we've got a nice little wing up on top, right? Those are all captured in there nicely. It's all nice and tight, all secure, won't spin on us. Just like that. Now we're going to take our, this is Parapost Wing in hot pink, and we're just going to use this as an indicator. You can do this without this if you'd like. You don't have to do this step. I just like it on some of my patterns so that if it's low vis or whatever, I can grab a brighter one. It's easier to see. Now we've put it in just like that. Now we're going to pull this back, wrap over the top of this, really secure, make sure it's all nice and in there. And then come in and trim this post just shorter than the wing. And if you got a few scragglers, you can come in and trim them up. So now we've got our indicator post in there. Now we need to take our dubbing spinner tool and create a loop with our thread for this last kind of step. So we're going to capture that, make sure it's in there nice and tight, set that off to the side. So we've got that loop. Come back forward, and I'm going to take a little bit more of our brown dubbing, just a little bit, not a huge amount. You don't want to build up a bunch of bulk here, but we now need to cover up that thread so that we have something for the rest of the fly to stick to, or for the wing to stick through when we wrap back through. So, okay, so one thing I like to do once I get that dubbing up front is I like to throw in a 2-turn whip finish here just so that nothing comes untied when I'm doing this next step. So now I have a nice big CDC feather. We're only going to use half of this feather, and we're going to come in and cut the tip off because the tip generally gets in the way when you're trying to do this technique. So now we've got our loop here. I'm going to come in and jam the CDC feather up into that loop and come in and very carefully trim this off. Now we just have to spin this up and grab our Velcro, pick this out a little bit, and we're just going to palmer this forward just like this as we go. We want it to be nice and buggy, lots of CDC up there, lots of movement when it's in the water. Capture that loop there, trim that off, grab our whip finish tool, throw in a whip finish or two up there for the head of the fly, trim off our thread, and then all there is to do is make sure that none of those fibers are too long. It looks perfect to me. You want those real buggy fibers all over the place. Helps it float and make it look more realistic. Like I said, this is kind of a brown color. I'll do it in black with a black body, works really well. And then also like in an olive or a natural color, works pretty well as well. But like I said, this is the fly that got that brown at the beginning of the video, and I use it on my dry dropper setup all the time. Works like a charm. Combo of Lance and Devin's pattern, and it's a good one. I'd have it in your box. It works well. Fish it.